Welcome to Chamber Chat. I'm John Tare, President and CEO of the Boulder Chamber, and I welcome you to our bi-weekly conversation with movers and shakers from around town to talk about issues that are important to our businesses, our economy, and our community. And today we're going to have a conversation about Bedrooms Are for People, an initiative that the Boulder Chamber is supporting, with Bryan Bowen, who is an architect with Caddis Collaborative. And so we're going to have an interesting discussion about this initiative. But before we do, just a couple of announcements from the Boulder Chamber. So first of all, on September 10th, we are going to be celebrating or participating in the Day of Caring. And we're going to have an activity with the Boulder Young Professionals and the Business Women's Leadership Group supporting our great organization in our community, SPAN. And that's going to be from 9:30 to 12. And if you're interested, make sure to check out our events calendar for those details. But it's a great chance to support an organization that helps women and others who are abused and battered. Great, important organization in our community. And then we have another great business before hours, and that's going to be on September 9th from 8 to 9:30 at another nonprofit that just does beautiful work in our community, helping those with mental health disabilities who are learning productive skills, and they produce some wonderful products. It's called Mindful Works. So urge you to get ready, register for business after hours, and that's going to be a great chance to connect with other business leaders and enjoy some great breakfast and home cooked items, all from Mindful Works. And then on September 30, we're going to be honoring great business women leaders in our community in our annual Women Who Light the Community Awards event. And you're going to have two ways to participate. One, you can watch it online, so register early for that, as well as at Lionsgate. They're going to have a beautiful in-person event option. So make sure to check out that event. We're honoring some wonderful, again, business women leaders in our community, and we want to make sure you're part of that recognition. And then finally, save the date, and that's for October 14 from 7:30 until noon, and it's our annual economic summit. And I know we're going to have some important conversations about what's ahead for the Boulder economy and how important economic vitality is to lifting our community. So remember that, save the date, October 14 for our economic summit. Okay, enough about things happening at the Boulder Chamber. It's time to have our conversation with my good friend, Bryan Bowen. Yeah, good friend, Bryan.
And we've met before.
Exactly. I've seen you. Yeah, okay. Called you to please help us, the Chamber. So Bryan is a former planning board member, in fact was recently chair, but now he's stepping forward in support of an initiative that's going to be on the 2021 election ballot, and it's called Bedrooms Are for People is the popular name for the initiative. And as I mentioned, it's one that the Boulder Chamber supports, but we wanted to talk with Bryan just a little bit about sort of the history of that initiative, what it does, and the outlook for it, and how they're addressing some of the concerns that folks have expressed about this initiative. So first, Bryan, I'm just going to ask, what was the history of the reason for pursuing Bedrooms Are for People?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that there's a housing crisis going on, not just in Boulder, but in most Western towns. Mm-hmm. I think there's a stronger recognition that having people be able to live where they work, or live in walkable neighborhoods, or live in denser environments that support transit are all really positive things. So personally, over the past 22 years of being an architect in this town, I've had many, many calls from people, older ladies saying like, hey, 3 or 4 of us want to get together and do like a Golden Girls kind of setup. Like, how do we do that? And I'm like, oh, sorry, that's illegal. And they say, oh, but my husband and I, and then 2 of the couples, we want to get together and live in a house together. I'm sorry, that's illegal. Wow. So I've had all these experiences where well-meaning, good people in the community have wanted to do something that the city has found, for historical reasons that maybe are no longer relevant, something they should be protected from. Gotcha. And so that personal professional experience is kind of one aspect of it. And the other aspect of it is I am very involved with community styles of living, whether it's co-housing or co-living or cooperatives. And I see a huge number of benefits to those kinds of living environments. City of Boulder's code talks about supporting a diversity of housing types, and that's one thing that I think as we've developed more thoughts around planning and zoning and seeing how cities learn over time, we've realized that that's a super important piece of it. What happens when you age out of the home where you've raised your family and you want to live in town with your spouse and walk over to Ideal Market for coffee? How do you do that if you don't have a 3,000 square foot house?
Sure.
So all those things point towards basically repealing a prohibition against no more than 3 people in most parts of town being able to live together.
Well, so I think what you're getting to is what will the Bedrooms Are for People initiative do? What's its purpose, and how will it change our codes?
Yep. Yeah. The specific ballot language is not in my mind right now, but the idea is that it will allow more people to live in a single house based on how many bedrooms there are. And one of the really nice aspects of that is that the occupancy of these homes, we already have 3, 4, 5, 6 bedroom houses in town. So you're allowed to build a house, but you're not allowed to have people live in those bedrooms. So this would allow you to have 1 person per bedroom plus an extra person. I know my wife and I, when I first moved here, I moved into the rental that she had. There was a married couple upstairs, or a boyfriend-girlfriend couple upstairs, a single guy, and then both of us there. So that wouldn't have been allowed. But no harm was caused by doing that. So, and I didn't even know at that time that there was such a thing as an occupancy limit.
Did you know you were breaking the rules?
I had no idea.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah, we'll go with that. Yes, I've never known about any of the rules that I've broken.
Oh, very good. So that's interesting. So it will just adjust the code so it's you're allowed to have as many people as you have rooms plus 1. Is that the key element? So some have been concerned about this initiative with respect to what it might do in terms of just creating an opportunity for somebody to chop up a big house, let's say, and put an enormous number of rooms in there, leading to just a large number of, let's say, students, and then the potential for noise, etc. And then there's also a concern about the potential that will just lead to a significant increase in housing costs for single family residents who are trying to find a home, because they'll be competing against folks who will be looking to create those kind of rental opportunities. So just wondering, how do the proponents of Bedrooms Are for People respond to those kinds of concerns?
Yeah, those are really good questions. And I think one of the real benefits of the way this is written this time around is that it doesn't modify the charter. It really is an ordinance that we can work on with city staff, with city council, with planning board, and come up with solutions that need to be tweaked over time. They can be tweaked over time. Much of the concerns that get raised are not actually about how many people live in the house. They're about the impacts that come out of this, right? So is there, and after my 8 years on planning board, it's always traffic, noise, impacts on me as a neighbor. And those are fair things to ask about. We do have noise ordinances. We do have requirements that actually go straight towards those concerns. And those are hit or miss, I think, in terms of being well executed in the city. So that might be a place where better enforcement is kind of the key to solving some of those concerns. But in terms of the financial model, if you are going to take let's say you have a 4-bedroom house and you're going to split one of the bigger bedrooms into 2 bedrooms, the amount of money that you're going to spend doing that is going to take an awful long time to pay back in terms of the amount of rent that you would get out of it. So it's not, I don't think, a very feasible thing to do to remodel existing houses to carve them up into bedrooms for more folks. And plus, single family homes rent for an awful lot in this town anyways. A friend of mine took a year off and traveled around the world and was able to rent his regular single family house out for $6,000 a month. So comparing that to spending $200,000 or $500,000 to chop it up into little bedrooms and hope you get that money back on the backs of the most vulnerable, lowest income people in town is I think an unreasonable thing to be afraid of. Not that it won't happen, and maybe certain parts of town might have more of a proclivity for that, but I can tell you in the 22 years of being here as an architect, no one's ever called me to subdivide a house into little bedrooms, but dozens and dozens of people have called me to find a way of living together in a sustainable, healthy, happy socially progressive way.
Gotcha. Some have said that maybe they would suggest a cap or something like that on the number of bedrooms, and you mentioned legislatively that that's a potential. So is that something else too that the proponents would be willing to look at?
Yeah, and I think they're actually, I put this in my phone and I'm going to look at it while we're here on this camera with you. I think a cap would be a possibility for that too, and it's not right now in the language.
Okay.
But I think that might be one of those places where you could find sort of a logical limit, and maybe there's a tipping point where instead of being house with roommates of up to some number, it really becomes more of a co-op ordinance kind of a style approach, and fall into a different legislative portion of the city's world.
Yeah, and I'm sure the legislative nature of it creates a lot of opportunities.
Mm-hmm. There's also another possibility. Sorry, I don't know if you do, but we have building code requirements that require if you're renting and you have a rental license, you have to meet smart regs and you have to meet the building code, and there's a lot of rules out there. We live in a regulation-rich environment, as you know.
Amen.
And so most of those rules are going to be there to protect the safety of the occupants.
Mm-hmm.
And they do drive up costs. And as you remodel these older homes, and as you are required to bring things up to meet current energy codes and life safety codes and egress requirements, those costs are all borne by the person who owns the house. If we were to, for bigger units, and we do this already for affordable housing projects, apply livability standards, those are things that actually would start to help with some of those carving up into small pieces perspective. But actually, I will say, carving some of the existing homes up into smaller bedrooms and allowing more people to live there may be a wonderful thing. It would bring more people into existing neighborhoods that would make them more walkable, support the local businesses better, support the ability for our transit systems to work better by having more folks riding them. So there's a lot of really positive things to what I think for some people it might be scary.
Yeah. So there's a balance probably to what we're looking at. It's an opportunity to house more folks, but at the same time, considering what might be excessive in certain neighborhoods, at certain density. Well, let me ask you this then, Bryan. Just if you, as a proponent, see this initiative pass, and think about a vision you would have 10 years down the road for what this would have done for a community, what does that look like to you?
I think the benefits of living collaboratively are really subtle, nuanced, but pretty big. I myself live in a co-housing community. We've designed a lot of cooperative housing projects and co-housing communities around the country, and what I see people, what happens to people when I see them living in shared environments is they really blossom. They begin to find a sense of purpose in connection with each other. They're working to mutual benefit with other people in their environment. The definition of family units really changes away from just being nuclear family or marriage or related in those ways to being families of choice, right? And maybe those are temporary, maybe they last forever, who knows? But I think there's really profound revelations that most Americans find from the single family world when they move into some kind of collective housing environment. The magic of sharing is tremendous in terms of sustainability, in terms of mutual benefit. I learn a lot from my neighbors all the time about things that I have no other way of learning about. So I think it's a real positive impact on my own personal life.
Yeah.
So I feel like having raised my kids in an open community like this, in Wild Sage Co-housing in North Boulder, in Holiday neighborhood, the benefits to them have been pretty remarkable as well. Yeah. So I think it's a great thing for everybody.
Beautiful vision, and very much in line with the values I think our community cares about: sustainability, mutual collaborative work together. I love it. Well, Bryan, really helpful to hear your perspective on bedrooms are for people, and as I mentioned, the Boulder Chamber is endorsing and supporting that initiative. So make sure to make your own judgment about it. That's what we always ask, and we invite you to learn more about that initiative by going onto the Boulder Chamber website, checking our election resources, and we have all the information. Gives you perspective from both sides, pro and con, but also we're very clear on the Chamber's perspective. So I will just say, Bryan, thank you so much for being with us on Chamber Chat.
Absolutely.
And thanks all of you for watching us, and we'll see you next time on Chamber Chat.